Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Jalen Says, and today we're with Susan Frankel. How
Hi
are you?
there. Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. So, can you tell the audience what you do?
Sure. I am the CEO of an organization called the National Runaway Safe Line, and we're based in Chicago, but we're a national organization that provides crisis services, support, and resources for young people who are in crisis and who may be experiencing homelessness or living on the streets. And so we predominantly serve young people who are ages 12 through 21 through a variety of different services and supports that I think we're going to talk a little bit more about.
Yes. So, I also heard you teamed up with the Greyhound bus to return kids from bad situations, from running away, and how did that all start?
Sure, thanks for asking about that. It's one of the programs we're incredibly proud of, but we've been working with Greyhound since 1995. So for quite some time, helping young people, kind of like you mentioned, return home, whether to their parent or to the guardian or another family member, or sometimes to a different kind of safe living arrangement, depending on what they're looking for. But essentially what we do is the young person will contact and reach out to us. We talk with them, learn a little bit more about their situation and circumstances, help to understand more what they're looking for and what they need and what they want from the next steps.
So, what are most of the kids looking for, basically?
So, meaning if they want to return home, let's say they're a young man who's in Florida wanting to go back, who's maybe 15, and he wants to return home, and maybe mom is in New York. So we talk a little bit more about why did he leave home in the first place? What were the circumstances? What does he think will be different if he goes home? What does he maybe need from mom when he gets there? And maybe what kind of services or resources or support he would need in order to feel safe and secure and to have the right things in place so that it's more successful when he goes home. And then what we do is work together. We'll actually get on a conference call between, in this example, let's just keep using this, we'll call him Jack, with Jack and maybe his mom, and we'll get them together on a call. So again, they can have that conversation. What are the expectations? What does everybody want? What's going to work best? And then we'll issue a bus. We'll work with Greyhound, issue free transportation, make sure that when we book that ticket, that it's as safe of a route as possible, meaning shortest route, not stopping places, in the middle of the night and having to change, making sure that a young person would have food and access to phone services if they need it. And then we make sure they get home, and then we follow up to connect to make sure they arrive safely. And then again, offer other support and services when they get there.
Yes. So tell me everything you offer and how we could reach you.
Sure. So most importantly is the 1-800-RUNAWAY, that 1-800-RUNAWAY is both our phone number as well as the 1-800-RUNAWAY.org is how young people, parents, family members, other interested folks can visit our website. On our website, it's very easy right there to access the range of services we provide. So our hotline number is there, but you can also reach out to us if you're in crisis via a chat service, which is essentially like a live, real-time, instant messaging. You can reach us by email, and then we have a forum where you can get lots of information, ask questions, learn more, find all kinds of resources. And then we also do a lot of outreach and work around prevention. So we're really trying to make sure that we're working with young people, with families, with community members all across the country to help make sure young people have options and alternatives to running away, so that they're able to running away or to experience homeless situations, so that we provide safer alternatives, because we know that nobody really wants to be homeless. Nobody wants to live on the street. So our goal is to make sure that doesn't happen for anyone.
Yes. So can you tell us the story of building this business, when it started, and how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's we've actually been around. We started in Chicago in 1971.
Wow.
So almost 50 years ago. We're getting ready to celebrate our 50th birthday this year, which we're excited about. But we started, there was a local philanthropist, so a local person who had a lot of money, basically, who actually, a young man who needed help in the Chicago area wound up just randomly calling him and asking him for help. And this gentleman looked around and realized, you know what, there's no place for young people to call if they're in trouble. And so we were able to start an organization with that funding called Metro Help. And then interestingly, in 1974, a few years later, at the federal government level, there was legislation passed called the Runaway and Homeless Youth Act. And what that essentially did is it recognized, first of all, that there are and were at the time runaway and homeless youth all across the country, and that it was really important to have funds to help build support services, and also to make sure there was a national hotline service like ours. And then we became the National Runaway Switchboard. And then, since no one knows what a switchboard is anymore, we changed our name just a few years ago to the National Runaway Safe Line. And now we're almost 50 years old, and we serve thousands and thousands of young people each year, and we're continuing to grow.
So you said Swiftboard?
I'm sorry?
You said Swiftboard?
We were called the National Runaway Switchboard, which you probably, a lot of people have no idea what a switchboard is, but it was like an old, very old fashioned kind of phone system. And so up until a few years ago, with that being our name, you would get exactly the look that you just gave, which was, what does that mean? Who are those people? Why would we reach out for help? So we changed our name.
So, can you tell us all the hobbies you do as?
So, like, what do I do when I'm not being the CEO of the National Runaway Safe Line? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
All right. So sometimes I pretend like I'm a runner. So I might go out for a run or a walk, and I like to play tennis and read. And I have two kids of my own. So I have a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old. So spending a lot of time with them.
That's incredible. So are there any hobbies that you'd like to pick up?
Any hobbies that I would like to pick up? That is a really good, interesting question. Well, I know that you like to cook. I also have actually, even more so the past year, have been cooking more. Although one of my children last night informed me that I needed to pick some new recipes because I wasn't really doing that great of a job, but I'd like to become a better cook.
Okay. Well, I could teach you a little bit of that.
It sounds like you could, for sure. So I might have to take you up on that, JALEN.
Okay. I'll give you the JALEN Says discount.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. What's your specialty?
My specialty is steak.
Oh, nice. All right. I've tried a recipe in the air fryer recently. So that was actually pretty successful.
Well, what's the recipe?
It's a steak with chimichurri sauce. So I can email you the recipe if you'd like.
Oh, thank you. So I'm just so glad that you're doing this. It's very important for what everyone's going through right now, even in COVID. People are running away from COVID, and it's also not a safe environment out here, kidnappers and a lot.
You're absolutely right. And I think that that's whether during COVID or before COVID. And as we talked about a little bit just a few minutes ago, sort of this idea that sometimes, particularly adults out there, think that anyone would want to be homeless, or the kids choose to be homeless is just not correct. And so when young people are leaving home, we know they're leaving potentially just really difficult and sometimes really scary situations. And really, as the National Runaway Safe Line, but I really feel strongly that as a community and as a country, we have to take this issue even more seriously than we already do, because no young person should be facing homelessness at this point, whether we're in the middle of a pandemic or not. It's not the way that anyone would want to choose to live.
So is there any very emotional story that you met with someone who was a runaway and just very emotional?
It's a great question. I think a lot of the stories are really, sometimes can be really difficult to hear and difficult to experience or to listen to. I think one story that really sticks with me is we had, it's about a year or so ago actually at this point, but a young person who had wound up from Idaho, I believe it was, in Florida. And he called and he wanted to go home. He wanted to use our home free program. And we made all the arrangements. It was, mom wanted him to come home, but the closest Greyhound station was a little over 26 miles away from where he was in Florida.
Wow.
He was in a more rural part of Florida, so it was a little bit harder we were having trouble finding any way to get him to the bus station. And so he decided he was going to walk to get himself there, which 26 miles is basically a marathon. It's just it's a long way to walk if you had been training and planning to go that far, let alone just, I'm going to walk today 26 miles. But he was determined to do it. And he actually headed out to start to, and unfortunately got turned away at a bridge, and the police sort of turned him back. But the good part of the story was we eventually actually worked with another local service provider, and we were able to get him a ride, get him on the bus, and he was actually safely able to return home.
So do you know how any of them got to their place, like how he got to Florida?
So young people are very resourceful and smart and able to make their way different places. Sometimes it's taking a Greyhound bus to get there. Sometimes it's taking other transportation. A lot of times it's getting rides with friends or strangers, unfortunately, and being in potentially unsafe situations. So it seems to really run the gamut in terms of how young people get to wherever they got to. We do see a lot where young people wind up completely on the other side of the country from where they started.
Wow.
Which is always amazing to me. But they do it and they do it, and they stay relatively safe, but still pretty scary to be out there on your own.
Yes. So is there any questions you want to ask me?
So I asked you a little bit before we started the conversation, but why are you interested in this, and how do we maybe get more young people interested in issues related, helping to be voices or advocates for homeless youth?
Well, how I got interested is my mom told me about you guys, and it was very inspirational that you guys were just taking people from lost places where they didn't know where they were, like literally states away from.
Right.
And it's inspiring, and I just want to give the word out in case there's any people who, are lost out there.
So what do you think would be a good way for us to get even more young people like you involved, whether they need our services or not, just to help us spread the word to more young people out there who maybe they don't even need us today, but maybe they would need us, later, and people know that our resources are out there and our services are available.
Well, to be honest, I don't really know because, see, I have this mindset of doing this. Now, other people may not have this mindset, and other people may want to, but they don't have the resources. But you could just, if you want to, you could just get on your phone, call or text people that you know to spread the word. You don't have to have like a show like me. You don't even have to get on Facebook Live or anything. You just need to spread the word.
Right.
Yes.
That's super helpful. We've actually recently launched a new campaign. It's called Let's Step Forward Together. And it's mostly a campaign that we're putting out via social media and other digital platforms and services to help try to get the word out. So we've kind of turned it into a fun, engaging social media campaign. And so I'm just wondering, I think like you said, sometimes it's it's helpful just to have people just share our posts, right? Just to again help get that information out to other young people.
Yes. So I have a question for you.
Sure.
So have you ever had someone like from Canada in the US that you had to take back to Canada?
So that is a good question. It has come up, and it gets a little complicated though, right? Because it depends how they got here. It depends how old they are. It depends on a variety of circumstances in terms of how we would work to return them home. But in those kinds of situations, that's where because our staff is so highly trained and so capable of dealing with situations like this, we have a lot of access to all kinds of other partners and resources that we would work to help that young person return safely from one country to the other.
Nice. So can I ask you this question? Now, I did this trick on someone else, but this is now the real version.
Okay.
This is the real version of the question. Now, many people aren't able to answer this.
Okay. Should I be nervous?
You should be very, very nervous about it.
Okay.
What is your favorite food?
Oh, my favorite food is ice cream.
What type of ice cream?
Anything with chocolate and peanut butter.
Do you have a specific brand that you really like?
So I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio, and there's an ice cream place in Cincinnati called Grater's, and they have a flavor called Buckeye Blitz, which is like chocolate ice cream and chocolate chips and peanut butter, and it's really good, and that's the one that I like the best. So
I like to try that.
Is that really the real question? Did I answer it okay?
Yeah, that was the real question. You answered it great.
Thank you. What's your favorite food?
See, I told you it was a real hard question.
I answered right away. I was ready, Jalen.
It's in between a burger and a really, really good salad.
Nice. All right. Those are really different options, though.
Yes.
So you could have them both at the same time.
Yes.
Right.
So, in your experience with doing all of this, have you actually saw someone on the road that you helped? Have you saw someone on the road who haven't reached out to you just homeless on the road?
So unfortunately, I see people all the time, right? I live in the Chicago area. I see people. It doesn't matter if you're in Chicago or you're in a lot of communities. You unfortunately you see people and you try to stop and help. I think for me, it's usually. I'm just trying to think. There's a young woman that I used to see quite a bit who had a dog with her. And sometimes when you're homeless and you have a pet, it can be really hard to get services. And so a lot of times going to a shelter or something like that would be difficult because you don't want to give up your pet. It's a family member. But I used to stop and talk to her and try to get have a lot of conversations, and then eventually actually found a place to help her who would take her pet as well. And just try to just listen and learn a little bit about her and her story. And I think that that's the thing that's really most important is I think it's easy for us to make assumptions and decide what someone's story is based on their circumstances or what they look like or what we think it means to be homeless or asking for money or living on the street. But if you take a few moments, usually just to get to know someone, you realize some of what they're telling you maybe is something that you've experienced in your own life. And a lot of times it's just simply stopping to talk can go a long way.
Yes. So who is your best influence, your most inspirational influence?
So like for me personally, or just for the National Runaway Safe Line?
Both.
Okay. So for me personally, if I could have like dinner and conversation with somebody or a few people, right now I would pick Michelle Obama. Right now I'd pick Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris. Like I would love to hang out with them. And just because I think they're amazing women, and just incredibly inspirational and I think I could get them really excited about the issues impacting runaway and homeless youth, which is my other, goal there. In terms of for the National Runaway Safe Line, I think my biggest inspiration is the young people we serve, because the amount of just resilience and strength and courage that it takes to get help, to ask for help, and to survive really difficult circumstances is kind of an honor and an inspiration to be a part of every day.
Nice. So is there anyone that you'd like to work with that isn't your inspiration, but, someone that really could bring out the word?
So there are a couple of now you're going to make me like really try to remember my sports information, but there are actually a couple of folks whose stories have really been inspiring us for the National Runaway Safe Line. And don't ask me to quote a lot of sports statistics, but Jimmy Butler is one of the basketball players who has sort of a pretty phenomenal inspirational story that we think would be a great fit. And one of the other things that, of course, would be super great is obviously people spend a lot of time. Whoops. Did I lose you? There we go.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I lost you for a second. Especially right now, watching a lot of TV. But there are a couple of shows that have really spent a lot of time and focus on issues impacting homeless youth and things around like human trafficking and young people experiencing really difficult situations. So if I could get to Grey's Anatomy and Station 19 to just flash our number on their screen at the end of a few episodes, I think it would go a long way in helping us get our message out.
Nice.
Very specific.
So, Oh, wait, I'm just going to get it live on my Instagram right now.
Okay.
This is my first time doing it too. I don't think I can set it up right now.
You can hold it because you can't see it on there. And just talk. You can.
And so now I'm live on my Instagram too. So
Nice.
this is the first time. So you will be my first interviewee with Instagram.
For the Instagram. Thank you. I appreciate this. So, Jalen, can I throw the question back to you? Who's your inspiration?
My mom. And Kevin Hart.
Okay.
I think that's it.
That's okay. See, sometimes it's hard to actually remember the names, isn't it, when you get asked the question? So what else do you want to know?
I want to know something.
Okay.
A very important question. Now this one beats all of my other questions, even the food one.
Okay.
Now, this is very serious. Are you with me right now?
I'm here. I'm all in.
If you could start another company, what would it be?
Oh, wow. You just went for the really difficult question, didn't you?
I mean, I was going to choose one more difficult, like colors and stuff, but I think I keep it down a little.
I think, so one of the things, I just haven't figured out exactly what it would be, the marriage with the National Runaway Safe Line yet, but would love to start a component to what we do that, whether it's, a lot of sometimes really innovative, creative nonprofits have come up with like almost a for-profit component, or sometimes it's like a restaurant, so it helps employ people, and then the proceeds from the restaurant are able to feed back in to the organization and what we do. So I think for me, it's been trying to think about what would something like that, kind of a social enterprise look like, where we were able to live out our mission, but do it in such a way where young people, it would provide other kinds of opportunities for young people, but at the same time then help feed financial support into the organization to then help even more young people. But I don't have exactly the best idea yet. So if you have one for me, I am happy to entertain those ideas.
Oh, I'll think of it.
Okay.
If you have any audience questions right now, this is the time. But can you tell us how we could reach you again?
Sure. So that 1-800-runaway.org is always the best way to reach us, because then you can get all of our information and reach us via all of our different platforms for crisis services and support. So that will get you a link to our phone, our hotline, our email, our live chat, and our online forum, as well as the website has extensive resources for parents, service providers, community members around issues impacting runaway and homeless youth and how you can help.
Yes. And 1-800-runaway.org.
Yes, thank you. And just as a reminder to folks, we're around and available 24/7. So anytime that someone needs us, we're there on the other end. So there to offer a listening ear and help and hope for resources. So any holiday, any day of the week, anytime, day or night, there's always somebody there ready, live, a real person ready to help you.
Yes. So, so thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it and really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. But thank you to the wonderful audience who came on this 3 o'clock call. And just thank you for coming on. Stay tuned for the next one. And 1-800-RUNAWAY.org. Go check it out. You need to check out that link in case you want to inform other people about it. And you just need to spread the word. But thank you for coming on and stay tuned.